Hello guys, how are you? I am back with another episode. There is a message that I want to share with you guys, and this message, it comes from a translation of a message that I received a couple of days ago. The translation of this message reads like this. Hello Brother Nashi, how are you Brother Nashi? I have 3 children, but these children of mine, they are not physical babies, but I had them in the spiritual realm. These 3 kids of mine, they are living in the marine kingdom with the men that I married underwater. My story may be difficult to understand, but this is what is happening to me, Brother Nashi. I got married in the marine kingdom, but later on in this physical world of things that we can see, I then got involved with another man whom I then married in this physical world, but I was already married in the spiritual realm. I got married when I was still a young girl. What is happening to me is that there is a big fight in the spiritual realm because that man who married me in the marine kingdom, he is now fighting with the men that I married in this physical world. What is happening to me is that me and my physical husband, we are always arguing, and it is impossible for me to bear a child for him in this physical world. My story started like this. I once visited my auntie's house. I still remember that when I went to visit her house, it was during the school holidays. I was still in grade 6 when this story happened to me. My auntie loved me because I was named after her, so she always favored me. My auntie was a wealthy single lady, and because of her, some of my own relatives, they are now living in Canada, Australia, and in Europe. But amongst all of her relatives, my auntie favored me because I was named after her. She was someone who was really kind, and she really had a good heart. Brother Nashi, when I went to visit her when I was still in grade 6, whilst I was on my school holidays, my auntie one day, she just told me that she wanted to go with me to paradise. She said that the place that she wanted to take me, it was a magical place, a fantasy place. It was a nice place to go. She said that the reason why she wanted to go with me to paradise, it was because she wanted to prepare my future. She wanted me to inherit all of her wealth, so she wanted to prepare me just in case if she was going to die. As for my auntie, she had never been married before, and she had never had any child in this physical world. But now I understand why my auntie had never been married and why she failed to have a child in this physical world. But she had a lot of money. When the evening came, my auntie came to my bedroom where I was sleeping. It was in the middle of the night, and when she entered into the bedroom where I was sleeping alone, she was wearing a very white garment. It was white like snow, but one particular thing that I noticed on her body is that her face was glittering as if there were diamonds or glitters that were on her face. Her face was glowing in the dark. That is when she handed me a white garment that was also white as snow. And that white garment that she had handed to me, it had laces. It was really beautiful. It was more like a Cinderella's dress. Then she told me to wear that white garment that was so beautiful. After wearing that white garment, she told me to hold her hands. Once I had held her hands, we just disappeared out of the house. The next thing, we were standing at the river. And when we were standing at the river, the next thing that happened is we went underneath water. I don't know how we managed to breathe whilst we were underneath water, but this was quite surprising to me. To my surprise, there was no water at all. Underneath the water, there is a land which is quite dry. When you look up, you will see that there is something that is like a border that borders the land that is underneath the water, then the land that is above the water. You can actually see the line that divides the world that is underneath the water, then the land that is above the water. You can actually breathe properly. You can actually even see the sun rising up, even the stars and everything. You can see it from underneath the water. When we reached that land that is underneath the water, there were a lot of women and a lot of men. But when I looked at these women and men, they were more like angelic in nature. They were so beautiful and handsome. They were clean, and their faces were shining as well, as if their faces were made of diamonds. I have never seen anything so beautiful like those people underneath the water. They are the most beautiful people that you can ever come across. But it looked like they were waiting for me and my auntie. They were not waiting for my auntie as such, but they were waiting for a bride. When I was looking around the place, that is when I noticed that everyone was just looking at me, and this meant that I was the bride that everyone was waiting for. I started walking on that carpet, and my auntie was walking besides me. She was holding my hand. As me and my auntie were walking on that carpet, I looked ahead and I saw that in front there was a man who was standing as if he was waiting for me. He was a handsome man, and he was wearing a royal golden crown on his hand. And once we reached the place where that man was standing, my auntie then placed my hand on his hand and she walked away. After this, we then saw that there was another section in front, and all along people were following us until we reached that other section. There was another priest that was waiting for us. He was a wedding priest, and that priest then took 2 wedding rings. One of the ring he gave to that handsome man, and one of the ring he gave it to me. After we had exchanged rings, that is when that man started having sexual intercourse with me, and we were having sexual intercourse whilst we were standing, and everyone was just looking at us. Whilst me and that man were having sexual intercourse, those people that were attending our wedding, they started to shower us with gifts. I don't know how this dream ended, but the next thing that happened is that I just woke up in the morning, but my whole body was painful, especially my private parts. They were so painful, and I was bleeding a little bit. And the ring that was given to me by my husband whilst we were getting married in the Marine Kingdom, my auntie and I, we were the only ones who could see that ring on my finger. I had my first child when I was in grade 7, but when I fell pregnant for my Marine Kingdom husband, no one could see that I was pregnant. My parents and everyone in the community just thought that I was really getting fat, but I was pregnant. My mom was really worried. When she was worried, my auntie traveled all the way from the village. Then she came to the city where I was staying with my parents. Then she went with me and my mom to the doctor because she wanted to convince my mom that I was not pregnant. When we went to the doctor, I was really scared because I knew that I was pregnant. What this pregnancy will do when I was in front of other people that were not my auntie, it seemed as if that pregnancy will just disappear. But when I was with my auntie alone, then sometimes I would even vomit, like what happens to you when you are pregnant. So on the day that my auntie and my mom took me to the doctor, I was really scared that the doctor was going to tell my mom that I was pregnant, and I didn't know how to explain the situation. But after a couple of tests that the doctor had done on me, he then found out that I was not pregnant. I don't know how this happened, but I knew that I was pregnant. And when I carried my first pregnancy, it's not like I carried that pregnancy for 9 months straight. The way that they calculate time in the spiritual realm, it is different from the way that we calculate time in this physical world. Because in this physical world, you can live for 7 years, but in the spiritual world, they would say that you have lived for about 7 hours. Time works differently in the spiritual world. After giving birth to my first child, me and my spiritual husband, we had 3 kids together. These children, Brother Nashi, they are living under the water. Brother Nashi, even during the day, whilst I was in class, sometimes I would even hear my baby crying underneath the water. Then I will send another spiritual being to go and collect my baby. That spiritual being would go underneath the water and he would return back to the physical world carrying my spiritual baby. No one would see that spiritual being that I would have sent. No one would see the spiritual being that will be carrying my baby. Sometimes I would even breastfeed my baby whilst I will be in class and no one would even notice. When I was in grade 7, my breast was so big, but simply because I was kind of like fat, so people just thought that because I had a big body, that is why my breasts were big like that. But what they didn't know is that my breasts were big because they were full of milk. Sometimes I would even feel that my baby would be asking for milk. Then I will call my baby to come from the spiritual world so that I can breastfeed him. I used to do this a lot when I would be in class. I later fell in love with my physical boyfriend. After falling in love with him, I got married to him. And the first day that me and my current husband had sexual intercourse, he found out that I was no longer a virgin. And I had told him that I was a virgin because I thought that everything that had happened in the spiritual realm was not going to affect me in this physical world. But when I slept with him, that is when I found out that I was no longer a virgin. But he didn't even mind. He really loved me. When I calculate the years, it has been now 16 years since I have been married to my physical husband, but I have failed to give him a baby. What happens to me is that whenever I fall pregnant, sometimes the baby will just die in the womb, the physical baby. I do not mean the spiritual babies that I have carried for my marine kingdom husband. Sometimes I can actually give birth, but that baby will not live for more than 2 days. The issue that has brought me here is that my husband is sick, and the kind of a disease that is afflicting him, I do not even know. Things are not going well. My husband from the marine kingdom is the one that is making him sick because he is jealousy. Brother Nashi, I am tired of this life. I do not want to be the wife of this spiritual being. I am tired. I gave him 3 children, so I think that me and him, we can go our separate ways, because apart from having a lot of money, some of the money that I inherited when my auntie died and the money that this spiritual being gave to me, I do not see any benefits at all. This life is really painful, and I am afraid that if I tell my family members that my auntie made me to join this cult, the rest of my family members, they will just reject me, especially my cousin brother who is in Australia. She is always praising our auntie. Whenever he speaks with me, he tells me that if it was not for our auntie, he was going to suffer. So I know that if I tell any of our family members that our auntie made me to join this cult, they will just reject me. They will say that I am trying to tarnish the name of a kind woman who managed to raise our family from poverty. I need help to free my husband that I am living with, because my love is more than the love that I have given my husband who is in the marine kingdom. I am pleading with anyone who is spiritual in nature to pray for me, to separate me, to break this spiritual bond that is between me and my marine kingdom husband. Please help me to break this covenant, because when I entered into this covenant, it was not because of my will, but it was because of the will of my auntie. I was still young. This spirit is already tormenting me, because what happens is that when I am pregnant, I just have a vision. My firstborn that I had with my marine kingdom husband, I will see him swimming out of the water. And when he comes to the place where I will be sitting or sleeping, he will enter into my womb and he will kill the child that I will be carrying in my womb. Please help me. I do not want this thing to happen to me. I do not want this situation to continue. Yes, I am wealthy. I have money. My husband is wealthy, but what he does not understand is that I am the reason why he is so lucky when it comes to business deals. The reason why he has achieved so much in his life, it is because when I started dating him, my husband from the spiritual world, he was walking in front of my husband and he was opening all of the financial doors for my husband. So my husband thinks that all of this money that he has, it came from God. But I know that it came from the marine kingdom. As wealthy as I am, I have reached a point in my life where I have told myself that if it is possible, I would rather suffer than to live a life that hurt me so much. Dear listeners, right there was a message that I received a couple of days ago. Then I had to ask one of our admins to give us a translation.